Hi guys. Sorry. Hi guys. Happy Monday. Halloween week is here. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you guys really appreciated your time with Mrs. Robinson, and I am excited to be back working with you all tomorrow. Here's the challenge questions that you should have already completed. Okay, so we are going to work on adding and subtracting decimals. The author of the book does something that I don't know whether or not I agree with. He or she relates decimals to the metric system, which is a different way to measure things. We are going to work with the metric system, and we're going to really dive into it, but not yet, not in unit number 2. So I'm going to kind of give you a very brief understanding of the metric system. Okay, the metric system is just a different language for measuring things. Like we use inches and feet. They use meters and centimeters and kilometers and stuff like that. So this is the very basics that you need to understand, and then you don't even really need to know the metric system in order to complete today's math. So the metric system. If that is a meter, which that is not a meter is like as tall as my whiteboard in my classroom. That is a meter, okay? But if this symbol here represented a meter, then this symbol is 10 times bigger than a meter. And this symbol is 10 times bigger than that. And this symbol is 10 times bigger than that. And then if you go on the flip side, well, if this is a meter, can't we go 10 times smaller than that? Yes, you can. Can you go 10 times smaller than that? Yes, you can. Ooh, look at that little guy. Can you go 10 times smaller than that? Well, yes, you can. Now, these each have their own names, okay? So when you take 10 meters and put them together, that is something called a decameter, okay? 1 decameter, and if you put 10 of those together, that is something called a hectometer. If you put 10 of those together, that is something that is called a kilometer. Now let's go on the flip side. What if you take a tenth of a meter? Well, 1/10 of a meter is something called a decimeter. What if you take 1/10 of a decimeter? Well, one of those is actually called a centimeter. What if you take 1/10 of a centimeter? One of those is called a millimeter, okay? So that idea is as far as you need to go today. You don't need to understand how to convert them. You don't need to understand anything like that, okay? So on today's homework, which is on page 50, not homework, Lions 1, not homework, classwork, on page 55, on the bottom, you are going to see this chart, okay? So the first thing I like to do is fill out this chart. So if you fill it out accurately, we said 1 meter is the exact same thing. Sorry, a decameter is worth 10 of the meters, right? 10 equals a decameter. A hectometer is worth 100 meters, and a kilometer is worth 1,000 meters. Going on the flip side, 1/10 of a meter is a decimeter, because it takes 10 of them to make a meter. 100th of a meter is a centimeter, because it takes 100 of those to make a meter. And 1/1000th of a meter is a millimeter, okay? Using this chart, fill out 1 through 6. If you want to test yourself and pause the video, go ahead and fill out 1 through 6 and then unpause it. All right, here were your answers. Number 1, how many decimeters are equal to a meter? 10. How many millimeters are equal to a centimeter? 10. How many millimeters are equal to a decimeter? 100. How many millimeters are equal to 1 meter? 1,000. How many centimeters are equal to a decimeter? 10. How many centimeters are equal to a meter? 100. All right, so I know I went through that quickly. Like I said, we're going to talk about that in much more detail later on in life. I'm not too concerned if you're not completely understanding how to convert right now, okay? All right, so today we talk about the metric system. First, let me explain something. When we add or subtract fractions, these are all of the steps, right? Line up the fractions, separate the whole fraction, or the whole and the fraction. Figure out the common denominator, find the magic number, turn it into a new equivalent fraction, add or subtract, borrow or carry over, and then finally add or subtract the whole numbers, and that's how you get your answer, right? We love adding or subtracting fractions. Well, now, these are the steps of adding and subtracting decimals. 4 steps. I love it. All you have to do is line up the decimals. Line them up vertically. So write them up and down. Line up the actual decimal, and everything then is where it needs to be. Now you just add or subtract each column, carry over or borrow if you need to. Bada bing, bada boom, done. For example, if we have 5.45 or 5 and 45 hundredths and we subtract 1.8 or 1 and 8 tenths, you got to write it up and down. And then when you're done with that, make sure the decimals are aligned. If the decimals aren't aligned, you're going to do it wrong. So that means that the decimals need to be in a straight line, just like that, okay? And now you have 5, you lose nothing. Well, Mr. Stahl, what does that mean? Well, nothing's there, it's nothing. So you can add a 0 if you'd like. Most people do, but you don't have to. 5 minus nothing is 5. 4 minus 8 is illegal. I got to borrow from the 5. So when I borrow from the 5, it turns into a 4, and now 4 is worth 14. 14 minus 8 is 6. Make sure the decimal comes down. And then 4 minus 1 is 3. So that is how you add or subtract with decimals. It's a beautiful thing. All you got to know is line up the decimal. All right. We already did these. We did it in class. That is fine. So now try 14 through 17, and I'll go over the answers. So if you want to, you can pause, and then I'll go over the answers. If you don't want to, you don't want to. Lions won yesterday. You don't have homework, right? Okay, here's good practice. Number 14. Tori had fabric that was 6.2 meters long. She used some, and now she has 1.45. How much did she use? Subtract. Now you got to borrow from the 2, right? Because I cannot take 5 from nothing. So now the 2 turns into a 1. Nothing turns into a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 1 minus 4 is illegal. I got to borrow from the 6. When I borrow from the 6, it turns into 5. My old 1 turns into 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. The dot stays where it is. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. 4.75. Okay? Let's go to number 15. Matt is competing in a long jump. His first jump was 3.56 meters. So far, the longest jump in the event is 4.02. How much further does he need to go to get that? Well, you subtract. You have 4.02. You subtract 3.56. You want to see what's left over. I have 2. I lose 6. It's illegal. So I got to borrow. I borrow from the 10, but wait, 0 I can't borrow from. So now I cross off the 4, turn it into a 3. And then I give 1 to the 0, so it's 10. But I'm going to borrow from the 10, so it turns into 9. And then the 2 turns into a 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. 9 minus 5 is 4. The decimals are aligned. And then 3 minus 3 is nothing. So the answer is 46 hundredths of a meter longer. Patrick ran 53 meters away from Marty and then ran 16 and 200 meters directly back towards him. How far was Patrick from Marty? Well, we got to subtract, right? And we get some more. Like you remember, always line up the decimal. You can't take 2 from nothing. You can't take nothing from nothing. You can't borrow from nothing. So we got some borrowing to do. We're going to have to start all the way over at the 5. Turn that into a 4. Give 10 more to 3. So 13. Borrow from the 13. 12. And then you put the 1 in front of the 0 in the 10th place. Now you have 10 tenths. Borrow from the 10ths. Turn it into 9 tenths. Give 10 hundredths. Now you could subtract. 10 hundredths minus 2 hundredths is 8 hundredths. 9 minus nothing is 9. 12 minus 6 is 6. 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay? So 36 and 98 hundredths of a meter. All right. Sarita has some ribbon. After she used 23 and 8/10 centimeters of it, she had 50 centimeters left. That don't make no sense. After oh yeah, it does make sense. She used that much and then she still had 50 left. So you have to add them together to see how much she started with. So when you add them together, you got to make sure the decimals are aligned up. Mr. Stahl, 50 was a whole number. Yeah, so it has 0 tenths, so I can put 0.0. Make sure there's a decimal lined up. But it didn't have a decimal. So you make a decimal. A decimal is after a whole number. Put one down. 8 plus 0 is 8, 3 plus nothing is 3, and 5 plus 2 is 7. So you're going to do like an exit question, right? To show me that you watched the video. The answer is hot dog. Make sure you put just hot dog as your answer. Hot dog, okay? All right, can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and no homework.